I'm Oscar Isaacs, and tonight I will be talking about how you can use creative writing to help you with your anxiety issues. I'll be using the word therapeutic a lot. I use this word because it perfectly highlights my views on writing. But first, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I've been interested in writing since I was extremely young. I used to pace up and down my house, brainstorming new ideas for stories, as well as expanding old ones. Still, at 15 years old, I do this. My wild imagination allowed me to conjure up really strange but really quite magical stories that allow me to sit back from the outside world for about 45 minutes and revel in a land of make-believe that was my own creation. But more recently, as I've reached the more angsty teenager phase of my life, I've begun writing about things more appropriate for teenagers, typical things such as relationships and friendships. Although don't get me wrong, I still do love writing about fantasy, especially fables, stories of morals, about the relationship between two animals that would usually kill each other if it were the real world. I mean, an elephant and a beetle can be friends if you put your mind to it. But putting all those aside, I'm actually working on a full novella. This full novella is called The Lil Guy. The Lil Guy stars Eli Green, an awkward, overweight North London teenager who one day decides, you know what, I'm sick of being the way I am. So he runs away from home and decides to walk up to Hadrian's Wall to win the girl he likes. It's a comedy. But taking that out of the question for a minute, I want to talk to you about how you can use other people's writing as inspiration and how that links to anxiety. So it wouldn't be too far-fetched to say that most people base their things off of something, whether it be their songs, their painting, or even their writing. I mean, some without even knowing it. I only recently found out that the author of the Iliad, Homer, is often credited with developing the ideology that a character starts off at one place, he goes on an adventure, whether that be in his mind or physically, and by the end, he's changed. Let me give you a rather low-key example. Let's say I'm sitting at home and I want to buy some eggs. So I walk up the street, I go into my local supermarket, I buy the eggs, I go home. I start off at my house, I walk over to the supermarket, I've bought my eggs. At the end, I've changed because I've got my eggs. It's a rather low-key example, but it's still an example nonetheless. But taking the origins of Western literature out of the question, I'm mainly inspired by diary novels, things such as The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole by Sue Townsend. I like these diary novels, and I in fact chose to write The Lil Guy in a diary format. I like this format because you can get such a good insight into the mindset and the ideologies of the specific character. For instance, I fell in love with Adrian Mole's relatable awkwardness. But you might be wondering, Oscar, how on earth does this all link to anxiety and how you can deal with it? Well, let me tell you. In fact, I'll tell you from two perspectives, a writer's perspective and a reader's. From a writer's perspective, let's say, like me, you have a blog where you post most of your writing. I post my writing onto this blog, somebody might view it and leave a comment. I always feel so happy, and I feel less stressed because people genuinely care about what I've wrote about. But because I know that because they've left a comment, and if they've actually taken the time out of their day to leave a comment, even if it's negative or constructive criticism, I still know they've taken the time out of their day. So I just take the criticism with a pinch of salt. But from a reader's perspective, let's say you're me reading Adrian Mole. I thought to myself, as I was reading about this character who was awkward and wanted to get the girl of his dreams, I was thinking to myself, this writer obviously knows how to write a character who has a similar mentality to me. I don't feel as alone anymore. But kind of combining the two, as a writer and a reader, writing and reading is an escape from reality. As I sit down and type at the Lil Guy, little by little, I'm not thinking about what's going on in the outside world. The world just flies by, and I'm focused on words. And when these things do happen, I don't feel as bad because I haven't been there to witness the horrible details. So that's one of the ways that creative writing can help you deal with anxiety. But there are other ways, and now I'm going to refer more to the Lil Guy. So the Lil Guy is very close to home for me. The reason is because Eli is a character who's very similar to me. He talks like me, he acts like me, And the way that he converses with people is the way that I would converse with people if I was out doing his trek to Hadrian's Wall or whatever he's doing. Which brings me to my second point. Many people tend to write from experience. They write about their memories, their family, their friends, or they vent about their problems. And you can literally do this in your room, in your underwear, at your computer. You don't need writing talent to remember about your problems or vent about them. That literally comes with being a human. But on a similar note, there are some people that can't talk to their family or their friends about their problems, subsequently choosing to let it out in harmful ways, such as addictive substances or violence to themselves or others. And whilst I would urge anyone to talk to someone about what they're going through, no matter how small it is, not everyone's going to want to do that. So if you really don't want to, you don't have to, but you should still get them out of your head. So why not try writing? It's as simple as writing down the words, "I'm feeling sad because," and you write. Then after you've got them out of your head, you feel a lot better because they're not just in your head anymore. They're on a piece of paper. And to me, a blank canvas for the artist out there, or a Word document or a notepad, is essentially your best friend. You can put whatever rubbish you want on there, and it won't judge you. Not just because it's a blank piece of paper, but because it was meant for you to put your vision on there. And maybe it's not your vision. Maybe it's something that's not meant to be seen. I mean, I would never go and publish all of the poems I wrote last year because they're rubbish. But some of them are. But who cares? They're my rubbish. They're not meant to be seen. But anyway, referring back to the little guy, when I began writing it back in July or June last year, I was feeling quite deflated. And it was while sitting in my bedroom, feeling sad, that I thought to myself, maybe I could start writing down about how I'm going in my life. And I decided to do that through the little guy. So I sat down at my laptop, and the next 3 days, I was completely smitten with writing. And ever since then, I've been slowly writing it. I've been picking at it slowly. But another thing I want to talk about is the characters. But before I talk about that, I want to mention something. Although I am writing it, and I'm very interested in writing it, I haven't actually come up with an ending. Well, the slides are a bit back, but yeah. Well, anyway, I haven't actually thought about an ending. There are two endings, actually. The first ending is Eli gets the girl, he loses the 50 pounds, whatever it is that he wants to lose, and lives happily ever after. And the message is, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. And whilst this is a valiant message nonetheless, it's extremely cliche. And me being the way that I am, I want to avoid any glaring cliches in my work. So I was thinking about another ending. What about a more punchy ending? What about an ending where Eli doesn't get the girl, where he only loses some of the weight, not all of it? And this has more of a resonance with me, especially in an age where things such as fat shaming and magazine photoshopping is becoming increasingly prevalent in the modern world. But now onto the characters, and this is linked, by the way. There are two characters I want to talk about. The first one is Eli. Although he is a novelization of myself, he more or less represents the member of society that wants to change themselves and put themselves through hardships that could endanger their life just to be whatever society deems beautiful. But then you have the girl that he's after. This girl represents the ideology of perfect beauty. And Eli doesn't go out with this girl. Do you want to know why? Because she's unreachable to Eli, because she's too superficial to ever be with him. That's the ideology of perfect beauty. It's practically impossible. But this whole thing of fat shaming and judging people on the way they look, it's even in the media, the place where talent is supposed to be the most prevalent. I mean, if it was purely based on talent and not looks, somebody like, I don't know, Jonathan Antoine would be head of the charts. And how many of you have heard of him? But it's like we're living in the 1920s again. People are genuinely being referred to as the tall guy or the fat guy or whatever it is. And I personally think that's wrong. But I want to finish by talking about one of the best writers in the English language, George Orwell. George Orwell is arguably the master of social commentary. His stories, such as Animal Farm, and in particular 1984, are really remembered because of how accurate they are. I mean, after all, there are literally cameras everywhere in the world, and there's even a reality TV show called Big Brother. But that's besides the point. What I kind of wanted to say is George Orwell had a vision, and he had points of views that he wrote down, and they're now a book. And no, by the way, I don't consider myself as good a writer as George Orwell, but I have views that I want to get out, and if I keep them bottled up, there's no use. So once I get them out there, I feel better about myself. I feel like I've grown as a person since I began writing The Little Guy. The Oscar that was sitting there back in July, dreaming of being this perfect human that is the chick magnet, no longer exists. I now dream of being this person that's pleased with themselves. And hopefully I am that person. Because writing has helped me through so much. I've written about all of my problems, and some of them I've shown people, and they genuinely like them. And I think to myself sometimes, I would really love to do that as a career. So maybe I will. But now it's up to you. What if you're feeling low or anxious, or you have a point of view about the world that you want to get across? Well, why not write about it? Or sing or paint? You might find yourself a new passion, or even a new career. Thank you very much for listening.